Do you do end of the year evaluations at your studio? I think it's a good idea. A lot of schools do placement for fall this time of year, especially competition studios, because the competition seasons in my area run June to May, right? So they need the placements. But without the evaluation component to it, sometimes those placements can catch people by surprise. And for me, I feel like if I surprise someone with a placement, I haven't been clear in my communication in the months leading up to that. Let's talk first a little bit about the timeline of evaluations, because there's more than one way to approach this. And genuinely, anytime you offer a student and their parent constructive feedback is a good time to do it. Genuinely, anytime is a good time to do it. So I worked for a studio director one time who liked to have teachers do a quick evaluation right before fall break in case anybody had been misplaced or just exploded with growth and we wanted to adjust their schedule in the end of October. It didn't happen very often, but it happened every once in a while. And we didn't do formal evaluations then, but I think you could, just to give everybody a baseline of where they are at. The reason I think an October baseline or an October quick readjustment is a good idea is because the parents always really appreciated it. It was a sign to the parents that we are committed to their child's growth, not the convenience of our own scheduling. And sometimes we would go to parents and say, hey, we feel like they have just worked their little booty off the last 6 weeks. Moving up is an option. And the parents would say, yeah, except it's not, because I have another kid in lacrosse and I have another kid taking flute lessons and this is the carpool that we have. And okay, totally cool, very valid. But the parents still appreciated that we saw the growth of the child. And obviously we pushed them in the level that they ended up staying in. I always like to do an evaluation end of February, beginning of March, because it is far enough into the year that I have a lot of good progress to report, but it is not so far into the year that we can't course correct if we need to. End of February, beginning of March is a really good time if you see someone who's starting to fall behind and you have an honest communication method, whether that's a personal conference or you mention it in an evaluation, they have time to get back on track. You only are going to do evaluations once a year, and it is a time investment. I get it. So if you only want to invest that time once a year, that's when I think you should do it. When I do end of year evaluations, like send home the paper, end of year evaluations, for the young kids, it's more of a celebration. It's almost like a certificate. In fact, I worked for a different studio owner who, in addition to the really simple evaluation progress report form, would give them an actual certificate. It wasn't until they got into the more formal pre-professional training that the certificates of advancement stopped. And honestly, they were a big deal. They were meaningful for the kid. I don't think it was a ton of work for her to send those off to a printer. It was probably a ton of work for her to sign them because she did hand sign all of them. But that was just a touch that made it more special to the kids. Adding a certificate to a progress report for a young kid makes it special. It makes it a benchmark. It makes it a big deal that they get to do the next level of training. And I do think those certificates helped with her retention. For the older students, the more intensively studying students, I don't do the certificates of advancement, but when I do give a formal evaluation form at the end of the year, I prefer to do that if advancing over the summer is an option. If their placement needs to be set in stone, I will just wait until October. But especially for students who didn't do as well as they thought they had, If they can look at that evaluation and say, oh, this is what I need to work on, and then just crush it over the summer and have the option to move into a higher level at the beginning of fall because they put in the work, that can be a really empowering thing for those students. And that's kind of my favorite use of an end of spring, like end of the academic year evaluation. Those are the timeline options that I have seen done most commonly. But again, anytime you give valuable feedback to families is a good time to do it. So let's talk a little bit about valuable feedback. Doing great, not valuable. Like, sure, fine, it's uplifting, I guess. It's better than you suck the joy out of class, right? Like, someone said that to me once. And I'm laughing now, but it was a very deflating thing to hear. Okay, but blanket statements, be they positive or negative, they're not helpful because they don't tell the person receiving the feedback what they're doing right or wrong. If your feedback to a student is, you're doing great, they don't know what they can improve. And there's always something. And kids, especially dancers, know that. And B, they don't know what they did right. They can't go home and say, Mom, I've gotten so much better at not sickling my feet. We want to be specific. Why are you doing great? What are you doing great at? And it can be really simple. It can be really simple. Something like, you've gotten so much better at holding your alignment this year, or I love the positive attitude that you always bring to class. Or it can be something like, I love how I can trust you to look out for the new students in class. You really help our class be a welcoming place. You see how sometimes they're not always technical things? Sometimes the dancers that are struggling the most with the technique, especially in the beginning and elementary years, they just haven't blossomed yet, really. They need more time to grow. The roots need more time to absorb nutrients. And we want to keep them engaged and loving dance and feeling successful at dance while we give them the time they need. And so focusing on things that aren't technically part of the curriculum acknowledges that we do love having them in class and helps them feel successful while they work on the vocabulary. But if you have someone who's great at vocabulary, hey, your double frappes are amazing, definitely tell them that. Likewise, the more specific we can be with our needs improvement areas, the better. I was given a template for student evaluations one time, and it was like we gave everything 5 stars, but there was no space for notes, and it wasn't very broken out. I appreciate it. I had over 200 students to evaluate, and so I appreciate that all I had to do was, there were 5 areas, and how many stars did we get? It kept it really fast for me, but attitude in class, that's one where I would have appreciated the opportunity to finesse it a little bit, because I had a kid where, I think 3 different kids where I gave them pretty low stars on their attitude in class, but it was different things. For one student, it was attendance, but there wasn't an attendance field, and it was low enough attendance that it was impacting their progress. That was the best place I could figure out to put it. For another student, it was that they were such a perfectionist, they didn't want to try new things. And, giving them 2 stars on classroom attitude is not going to help that. The studio director preferred to do all of the parent communication themselves, and that just didn't make it onto her to-do list. It would have been nice to have some nuance. And then there was a 3rd student whose attitude was just terrible, and I would really have loved a chance to just add a little note of, I saw you flip me off when I said we were doing grand jeté instead of soda shaw. Maybe pay more attention to your hands. But the thing that all 3 of those situations had in common was that I was giving feedback along the lines of, we need improvement. But the format I was given didn't include an opportunity to be specific. And so just getting 2 stars is like, ugh. So when the evaluation format is up to me, I keep it super simple. So simple. I don't have great graphic design skills. So far, Nobody has doubted my teaching abilities based on my Canva abilities, which I appreciate. I hope that continues. But the format that works for me is just 3 columns, right? So in column A, we have all of the vocabulary, right? I've got the technical vocabulary, and then I've got things like attendance, class focus, just kind of the soft skills, right? That's column A. Column B, I usually do like a plus, minus, or like a circle for neutral, or like a 1 out of 5, or a yes, like a doing great or needs improvement. Like it's basically a pass fail. Just really simple. And that column gets filled out for every item. And then to the side, I have more space to give comments. I don't give comments on every item. That would take forever. Whether you're doing this longhand or you're doing it in a Google Doc or whatever, it will take you forever if you've got like 5 critical vocabulary and 3 soft skills. That's 8 items. Do you really want to come up with comments on 8 items for every student that you teach? Maybe you do, but it's going to take you forever. So I make sure that I leave at least 3 comments. At least 3 comments. That makes sure that people feel seen. That makes sure that I have time to explain any of the like pass fail things that were trending towards the fail. There's never a good way to put it, whether it's 2 out of 5 stars or a no or whatever. There's never a good way to put it. This is why we need this other column. Make sure you're saying at least one nice thing about every student. How do you do student evaluations at your studio? And what do you like about that system? What do you not like about that system? I would love to know, because let's be real, student evaluations take a lot of time to do. They are an emotional and time labor of love. No, they're not a labor of love. That makes it sound like I'm not getting paid. What do you like about your evaluation system at your studio? And how do you balance the time it takes? Because these do take time, but you want to make sure that you, the teacher, are not putting more effort into it than the parent and the student are getting value out of it, because they take so much to do. So how do you balance that? I would really love to know. Go ahead and leave me a comment.